we have Pamela from Australia. You're on the line. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi, yeah, I'm Pamela. You probably remember me. So I want to talk about, I guess, one of the core gender critical positions, because I know last time you diverted me off onto like a completely different topic. So I want to, I guess, explain the core gender critical position and see if you can argue against it.
Yeah,
I'm missing the word that you're saying. Doctor, what was the first word before you said gender critical position?
the core gender critical position, I think, is what she was saying.
Oh, what is it? Oh, it's just
Well, she wants to explain it, I think.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were asking me to explain it. I was like, I can steel man it, but go ahead.
Hey, you want me to explain what I see as the core position?
Well, yes,
if you
that's
like,
the position that you're, if that's the position that you're coming from, I'd like to know what position you hold, because then we can talk about why we agree or disagree with that. So, are you able to kind of tell us what you believe?
Okay, sure. My position is that the words man and woman throughout society and law should be defined with reference to biology and not with reference to identity or personality or behavior. I'm not arguing for a specific biological definition. I'm not arguing whether sex can change. I'm not arguing any peripheral issue. I'm arguing, whether, I guess, the words man and woman throughout society and law should be defined with regard to biological sex.
Okay.
Or
why did these need to be why did these need to be connected in your mind?
Why do the words man and woman have to be connected to biology?
Yeah. Why?
Because I think biological sex has a lot of social and political significance. Like, my life has been severely impacted by my biological sex. I think there are people whose lives are even more severely impacted by their biological sex, to be honest.
So do you believe
that
do you know the biology of everybody you meet in public?
I think I can correctly guess the biology of everyone I meet in public 99% of the time, but that's not the question.
How? Using what? Using what? What would you use to determine the biology of like 90% of people you meet in public? What specific factors?
Well, I can tell you it's not going to be their clothing.
Okay. I want to step back for a second. Can we step back for a second, because I want to go after something I think a little bit more fundamental to the argument, because I guess my retort to your explanation of gender critical, because I can see where you stand, that you say man woman is biological sex and that's the only thing that matters. Is there a difference between sex and gender to you?
I think gender ought to be abolished, and I think sex is biology.
Okay. So you do see a difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we look at, I'm glad we got there, right? Because I think, we can all agree that sex and gender are different, because I think we can start on some common ground here, right? So for me, it's like, I'm not denying the fact that I was assigned male at birth and my sex was that, and it is that. So I'm not trying to change my sex, right? That's not my position. So for me, it was all about gender, right? So in reality, when I think Dr. Ben was talking about of like trying to quote unquote find somebody's biological sex as they walk around, I think that we have to really understand how our social construction of how we interact with society is really based around gender and not sex. Like, I think if we were a society that just walked around completely nude all the time, maybe people are like, oh yeah, here we are. It's just, that's the dichotomy and things like that. but we don't live in that world, right? We live in a world that was constructed around the idea of gender. Gender roles, for example, has been set. Do you believe in gender roles?
I think they should be abolished, but I find it's interesting you brought up the idea that of people walking around nude, because I know that if I walked around nude, I'd be sent to jail. And if a biological male walked around nude, well, actually, if anyone walked around nude, we'd be sent to jail.
Yeah.
But if I walked around topless, I'd be sent to jail. If a biological male walks around topless, they don't get sent to jail.
So hold on. So I don't see. So that's not a really good argument to use here, because the argument there isn't, well, the biological sexes should be treated different. The argument there is they should be treated the same. Like, both Josie and I would agree that it's unfair that you should be denied something just because of your body, and that's exactly where we're coming from. That's where we're coming from with trans rights, is saying that you shouldn't be denied something based on your body. Like, Josie should not be denied being treated the way she wants to be treated because of her body, and I also should not be denied something because of my body. So that's our approach. I think. What are your thoughts on that specifically?
Well, the reason I brought that up is to illustrate that biological females are discriminated against because we are biological females, and we are disadvantaged throughout society in various ways because we are biological females. And
well, do you think that the discrimination that you face as a biological female is different than the discrimination that a trans woman would face?
Well, yes, because a trans woman is not biological female. A trans woman.
Well, no, but so what specific difference in misogyny is being done to someone who is biologically female versus a trans woman? What is different about these situations?
Well, I just gave you an example. If a person with a male body that male walks around topless, they don't get sent to jail.
That's not referring to trans women. That's referring to men. So if someone who is perceived to be male, regardless of their biological sex, they're still going to have that privilege. So the privilege is not restricted to the biological sex. It's to the perception of that. Right?
Yeah, I agree. It's based on the perception of biological sex, but I cannot be perceived as a male. I am not choosing to be perceived as a female. I am forced to be perceived as a female because I am female.
I have something to say. So it says here that you didn't say your pronouns. So I could just say that you're a they, right? Because it's just like, hey, they don't feel, like you said, they don't feel like they want to be a woman sometimes, right? Like, I understand. But I want to go back to the discrimination point as a trans woman versus a cis woman, right? And I guess for me, it's like, I still, when I walk around the world, I am perceived as a woman in society. And so I have to deal with a lot of the same issues that, cis women or biological women, the way you want to say it, have the same type of struggles. I feel like you and I would actually have a lot of solidarity there, right? Because at the end of the day, like, I agree that we should be able to walk around topless if you want. If I took off my shirt right now, we'd get this channel banned, right? Because that's how it is. Like, when I took hormones, I got breasts, and now my breasts are illegal to show in public. Right. So that is completely based on the gender construction of what you're talking about. Now, now pull away the biological, the issue with free the nipple and how, women should be able to have that right to do what a cis man does, or any man. I want to say, like, the word gender critical means that you're being critical of gender. So for me, it's like, gender abolition is a different conversation rather than being gender critical, right? Because when you say you want to abolish gender, you're taking a different stance than most gender critical folks, right? Because most gender critical folks that I've had communications with would say that gender is strictly linked to sex, so therefore we're going to treat you the way society has constructed gender in its gender roles. So when you actually say, hey, I want to abolish gender and gender roles, I agree. We should, as people, be able to do many things, right? Like, I think that it's wrong that women have specific jobs versus what other men do, right? I think that it's wrong that when non-binary people try to interact with society, people don't treat them certain ways because they don't know what box to put them in, all right? So I think we actually agree more than you think, because gender critical, if you can acknowledge that there is a difference between sex and gender, because gender is there, I think we can all say, like, we can't wave a magic wand and eliminate gender from the world. I think we have to deal with the social constructs that we have right now. So do you have anything to respond to that?
Yeah, I guess where the issue lies for me is that if you, I guess for me, gender roles would be something like people in male bodies have to be tough and aggressive and dominant, and people in female bodies have to be sweet and submissive and gentle and stuff like that. So I think that when somebody
that's beyond sex, though, right?
Like when someone
but sorry, you cut out for a second. I just want to jump in for a second. It's like you when you said male bodied and female bodied, it's the gender role that people put people into that make that happen, right? It's not that like throughout history, like men used to wear pink and bright high heels and things like that, right? It had nothing to do with sex, but the gender role said, hey, this is what it looks like to be bold, right? And so there is a lot there. So I feel like you're conflating sex and gender again, when if you want to eliminate gender, it has nothing to do with sex, because we already agreed that gender and sex are different, right? So I feel like there's a conflation again between male bodies and female bodies, but when you talk, you're talking about gender again. Does that make sense?
Okay, can I answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I'm talking about bodies is because as someone who's female, I feel like the social roles are being imposed on me because I'm female. Like, I am not choosing to present myself.
So I think we're on this. I think you're very, very close to getting it. We're all on the same page that those gender roles should not exist, and your body should not determine who you are, right? I think we both agree there. I think just the difference is, I think your perspective is that you're trying to limit this to just people with female bodies instead of expanding this to, wait, I don't want this to happen to people with female bodies, but I also don't want this to happen to anybody. Like, that's where we're coming from. We're just taking it a step further to, this is not okay. This is not okay that you are told that your body limits who you can be in life. But I don't want that to happen for me, and I also don't want it to happen for anybody else that I interact with. So I think we agree more than we disagree. Like, do you think we might be able to meet there a little bit?
Maybe. I definitely think that, like, so I know I'm talking about female bodies because I have a female body. I also think that, like, people with male bodies, like I said, are expected to be aggressive and tough and dominant. I don't think that should be the expectation that is placed on them. Like, I agree with that.
Right, we agree.
What I disagree with is I don't think that.
Yeah, we agree, right. And that's the thing, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
I guess where I take issue is that someone who is, I guess, has a male body and has these expectations placed on them, if they feel that they don't conform to them and then they say, I'm a woman, or like or they genuinely believe that they're women, are they really challenging the idea that men can be anything? Or are they sort of reinforcing the idea that if you think and feel a certain way, then you're a woman?
So I don't know. I could take a crack at that bit, Dr. Ben, unless you want to go for it, because like there's a lot of, so it's pretty interesting that we both have here a trans man and a trans woman on, and that binary, is pretty interesting, because like when I think of like my own like self as a human, like I have gender dysphoria, right? Like that's what I have, right? And not everybody has it, but I have it pretty severely. It's what made me want to go through all the medical transitions that I had, because of the societal construction that basically said you must fit in this box. The thing that you were saying, right? Which I think we all agree we object to, right? Because it is very traumatic for people to say, no, you're a man, go do man things. Right? Go be with other men, right? And that's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I want to be with other women who identify with the social construction of gender, of what it is to be a woman, because I think you and I have very similar lived experiences as women in our own right, and how we deal with the world around us. So for me, I guess it's not a question of I feel like a woman, therefore I am. Right. Because like there's really no way if you saw me on the street, I would hope and I would think that you would be very polite to me and not be mean. But I don't know if you would ever know if I was actually a trans woman. Like when you say female body, I have a female body. Like I have a female body. Like it is very real. And so I guess for me, it's like I'm in the gender construction that is woman just as much as you are. And that is the unique lived experience that we both share, regardless of how we agree or look at the world. The gender construction that you and I both live in is women, in the way that the society is structured. We can have philosophical discussions about the abolition of gender and what that looks like. If gender never existed, what would transition be? But those are philosophical thought experiments, right? The reality is that we exist. I exist. I'm talking to you right now. And my lived experience as a woman when I walk down the street in public is that of a woman, because that is the way that I live my life, and that is the way that I am and who I am. So does that make sense? Because I think we're having a more of a philosophical conversation about the abolition of gender versus the actual lived reality of the world and society that you and I have to share.
And I want to jump in here too, because I come from a completely different lived experience than both of you, and this was a question that I had to think to myself when I was coming out to myself as trans, because there is that question of do I just hate gender roles? Do I hate the way women are treated, or am I not a woman? And that was the question I had to think through. So for me, a lot of it came down to examples of things that were absolutely equal. And the only difference was the body and like the features that this person would have. So I took Vikings. Vikings are cool. I like Vikings. A lot of people like Vikings. They're very strong. They raided villages, all that stuff. They wear cool hats with horns on them, all that. And I was like, okay, you take a Viking in a movie or whatever, and you have a male Viking and a female Viking. They're both doing the same thing. The actions are not any different. They're the same. Just the only difference is it's their bodies and the way that they're dressed, maybe. And for me, it was, okay, which one do I want to be? If I had the choice of one of these two, I picked the male one. And then I think about other things in my life that are a bit less hypothetical, like back before transition when because I come from a theater background. So I always wanted to play male characters. And even with things like ballet, it's a very feminine activity. I hated doing it when I was presenting female. But looking back, I would happily step back into a ballet classroom as a man. Like, I'm happy with feminine activities as a man doing them. Same thing, I was a cheerleader in high school, presenting female, but I wanted to be the male cheerleader. We had one male cheerleader on my squad, and I wanted to be him. So it's the same activity, and we're talking about people just being not wanting to be feminine men and just transitioning to women. No, there is a place for feminine men, and I'm happy to be a man doing some things that are feminine as a man. So I don't think that's a good argument to eliminate trans women from this conversation, because there is a spectrum of all of these people, and to hate on one group of people just because they're not this other group of people. Oh, both groups still exist. We're not eliminating any of these people. We're just adding inclusion for all of them.
Okay. Well, I don't have any argument because they're trans. I guess.
Your audio is really choppy right now.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
There, better.
Oh, it's better now.
Better. Okay, cool.
Oh, not really.
Nope, I lost you.
Yeah, the
Is there
audio
a
is
place
really
with better
choppy.
reception?
Move closer to your router.
Yeah.
I think it's because
There we
the
go.
laptop.
Perfect.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot
great.
better now.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So you've described two very different experiences, neither of which are really mine, but that's not important, I guess. Yeah. So Josie's experience seems to be being born in a male body and not liking the expectations placed on males, and Ben seems to
That's
be
not.
being
I don't
born
think you listened to what. Pamela, I don't think you listened to what Josie said, because that was not at all the experience that Josie just communicated.
Yeah. It didn't have. Sorry. The idea of gender dysphoria. It wasn't the fact that I, as a male-bodied person, I was having this like, oh my gosh, I don't like this stuff. Like, it was funny that Dr. Ben was saying about, being a cheerleader. I wanted to be a cheerleader, but because I lived in a very place that wasn't very happy, like in Texas, I couldn't even be a male cheerleader because it was going to be bad, right? So there is all that. But really, I think beyond that, I really am, no matter how much I lived and tried to live my life as a man, it never felt right. It never felt comfortable, no matter how much I did. I was, I ran for office pre-transition. I played soccer. I was athletic. I actually, went and, I was a bodybuilder in the Navy. I was in the military. Like, I did all of the things that a lot of people would be perceived as masculine. And it had nothing to do with my body. It was about the gender that I was assigned. That is what it was, is that I never felt comfortable in the gender of man. So it really wasn't any more than that. So when I talked about the social construction, I just wanted to live in the world of the social construction that was already given to us as the woman that I am, right? So does that make sense? Because I'm not denying the fact that I was born a male, right? That's not my argument. It's the fact that now I am living more comfortably as myself. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you wanted to do the things that society says women should do, right?
Yeah, basically, but more of like, if I was, that's basically right. Like, I just wanted to be in the gender of woman, like you are. Like, yeah, it doesn't really. It's not about the actual femininity. It's just that I'm a woman, and I wanted the world to know that.
All of this isn't about. It's not about like performing gender necessarily. It's just about being the most authentic self that you are. It's just me. Like, my dysphoria made me feel like I was not me in the body I was given, in the gender I was interacting with society as. The way I was interacting with society was not me and did not make me feel like me. So my goal is not to be a cis man. I know I'm not a cis man. I'm not trying to be one. But I'm just trying to be me, and I'm happy being me. And I think Josie is trying to say that she's happy being Josie. And all of our trans community, we're just happy to be me. And the thing getting me up in the morning, I'm way happier now that I'm in my transition. And it's not because I'm performing as a cis man. It's because I feel like me. I look in the mirror and I'm like, that's me. I recognize that person. Like pre-transition, even though I didn't know I was trans, I did not know who the person was looking at me. And like, I'd be shocked sometimes because you don't think about who you are to yourself a lot. You don't have those identity crises a lot. But there were times when I looked at myself in a mirror, I was like, I don't know who this person is. Like, how is that? That's who the world sees me as, because I don't see myself that way. And that's all it is helping the world see you the way that you want to see yourself. And that's all that we ask for.
Okay, well, I find it, okay, so I think everyone should be free to be themselves. I don't think you can control how others see you. Like, you assumed, I think Josie assumed I was happy in the gender role of woman. I am not happy with gender roles. I want to abolish gender roles. I don't want to.
And again, that's a whole separate conversation. That's a whole separate conversation. Yeah, gender abolition is a whole different movement.
Pamela, I want you to do me a favor because I know we've been talking a bit here. Go ahead. Ask me that question. What were you saying? Go ahead.
Why did you say I'm happy in the gender role woman? Why did you assume that?
I didn't assume that. I actually said the opposite. I said that you didn't give us your pronouns and you said already that you're unhappy with the fact that you can't take your shirt off compared to a cisgendered man. So I actually assumed you to be more on the non-binary spectrum, so the gender roles don't affect you as much. And I just want you to take a look at this for a second. I want you to think about this, and I'm completely being in good faith here because I really appreciate this conversation and where we started and where we are now. Think about what that means to you about how you're not comfortable being a woman, right? Or sometimes you're not happy being perceived as a woman or being put into the box of woman, right? I want you to think about that and think about what and compare it to what you can't know my inside my brain, but this is the best I can do with the explanation. How I felt the same way about being a man, right? So much so that I had to do something about it, right? So some people have the same feeling that you're having, but maybe more intensified, right? And they're just like, I don't want to be perceived as a woman anymore because it doesn't feel good and it makes me feel sad, right? And that's where Dr. Ben was talking about being happy, because I was also a very sad, depressed person pre-transition. When I was able to come out and express myself freely as the person I am is when I became happier. I know so many non-binary people that are not men or women. They just feel as a non-binary person and they live their truth that way. So I can understand that very well. So I'm not going to invalidate how much it sucks to be put into a box that you may not agree with fully. So I want to acknowledge that, and I want you to think about that. What does that actually mean, right?
Okay, well, what it means for me is that women should be free to be themselves and still be women. Like, I would not call myself non-binary.
We agree.
Then I'm saying that a woman can't be what I am. A woman can't be confident. A woman.
Wait, how does No, it's weird in this whole argument, and you've carried this through multiple arguments now, is the assumption that if I'm happy being something that someone else isn't, then that means I'm excluding that person. And that's not at all what you don't have to exclude anybody. Like, I don't know why your argument and why you seem to need to exclude people. Why do you need to exclude anybody in this conversation in order for you to be happy with who you are?
Well, what I said wasn't about excluding anyone. I was trying to explain why I don't identify as non-binary, because Josie seemed to be implying that I should. Maybe I misunderstood that.
No, I'm not. I never said should. Your argument never said should.
No. And your argument just then was, well, I can't be non-binary because that would invalidate the experience of of other women. Like, but it sounds like you are assuming that if you don't fit into this framework that you've already kind of assumed to be there, that you're going to be excluding people. And I just don't see why this is a dichotomy of either I can be this and people are going to be upset, or are going to be this and people aren't going to. Like, this is a very weird thing to just lump together, I think.
Well,
And
I guess my
I don't know
position is that a woman can behave however they want. Sorry?
Oh yeah,
Go ahead,
I'll let
finish
you say, and then I think we've made a lot of headway in this discussion. So I think this will kind of be the final thought, and then maybe we'll pick this back up next time.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't want the word woman to be defined with reference to personality, behavior, etc., presentation, any of that stuff, even liking being in a female body, because I think that limits what a woman can be. I think a woman can be highly masculine, be a woman. A woman can be
Okay,
highly
so,
feminine, be a
yeah.
woman. A woman.
So here's what I'm gonna leave you with, because we, Pamela, we already addressed this. I want you to go back and rewatch this call, and I want you to think about the first question I asked you. And the next time that you call in, I want to address this question: why do you believe that biology and the word woman need to be connected? Because I think, again, like, this is where we're
Because I don't
circling
want
back to
women
that
to
point of
have
this
anything
conversation.
else.
You don't want what?
So-
Sorry.
so-
say it
Because I
again?
don't want women. I don't.
So you
want
don't want it to mean anything else.
Personality.
So that
Okay,
you want to.
so can I?
So
No, I just
Yeah,
want
I'll
to
let
say that
Josie-
final thought. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Ben. I did not mean to interrupt you like that, but I just want to say this: we agree that we should not define people by the way that they express themselves. In fact, a lot of queer theory, when you talk about like the way people are, you have sex, you have gender, gender identity, gender expression, and you also have orientation, right? And I would say relationship configuration between polyamorous and monogamous. But gender expression is completely independent of somebody's gender. We agree on that. The fact of the matter is, we don't want people to be perceived by what gender they are by the way that they express themselves, right? So that's what I think we should go back and, watch the video again and really think about, where do we actually disagree versus a trans person versus a not trans person? Because at the end of the day, like, I agree that you can be presenting any way you want, and that doesn't even interact with the identity that you have, right? And that is something that I think is where we can go and look up gender expression too, and know that gender expression is independent of somebody's gender identity.
Yeah, so I think this is a great place to end the call. Definitely review all of that, watch this call back, and we'll talk to you next time. Hopefully we can address some of this in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Pamela.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Snow, executive producer for The Line and avid candy eater. Hey, if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so now on Patreon or as a channel member with tiers specific to supporting specific shows and hosts. And it also supports our ability to expand programming going forward. You could also leave a super thanks down below, get a little special highlighted comment, and I'll tell you what, you could hit like and you could hit subscribe. Now, here are some video suggestions so we can fudge that algorithm. Go with one of ours. Forget everyone else on YouTube. I'm begging.